So, good morning. I just wanted to tell you that we see a lot of marching and we see a lot of people protesting. We see a lot of people that say that they want justice in all of these deaths and killings. And they see a lot of injustice that has gone on. And it's gone on for not just this year, it has happened um, many times over in the past. There are many other people who didn't get video or press coverage and fancy funerals and a lot of outcry and outpour for justice. And there are some people that are even doing a lot of time for petty events that are not worth doing the rest of their life in prison or a majority of their life in prison. And there have been people that have been wrongfully accused of things and they don't have any representation, they don't have anyone fighting for them. And in America, we have a prison system that functions with a lot of other networks involved in it. And it stays running like a well oiled machine. And so a lot of people don't realize that law enforcement is also involved in intertwined in all of this. And so there are a lot of higher ups and there are a lot of people that are in the woodworks that have yet to be seen and uncovered that are operating behind the scenes that call the shots as well. While we some of us may have good intentions and want to seek justice for a lot of people who have been wrongfully treated and have not had justice due to them, or they've been killed or murdered at the hands of maybe corrupt law enforcement. There are also other people who are corrupt in the background. And so in order to pull out the bad weed, you have to pull out where the source is. And so that might be a lot of other extensions that are coming from there. And it may be a dismantling that you wouldn't believe, and it may take longer than a year, longer than 2 years, maybe even longer than 3, 4, 5 years. And so a lot of money is invested in a system that basically controls and governs and pretty much puts out laws, and they can switch up and change things with the stroke of a pen. And so a lot of people don't really know the inner workings of who all is involved behind a lot of this. Some people are just learning, some people do know. And so with all of that, when you learn about how this goes, it goes real deep. So racism is not just your immediate aggressors. You also have people who indirectly perpetuate a lot of this. And they get paid big money to victimize or to oppress certain groups of people. And so when you have money involved and invested in furthering your racial institutions and being able to succeed at what you do, you have these prisons that are built and they're high tech, but you don't have a lot of money in education and paying teachers to educate youth. You have a lot of people who are working in these jobs and they're employed and they're getting high salaries, but you don't have um, institutions of governing and education to see if people have better lives for their future and for their families. And so that's the reason why these things are persistent, they're prevalent, and they continue till this day. And it's very, very difficult to dismantle things when you have so much money invested in these other entities. And so we're seeing surface things. And so I wanted to say this. I'm going to show this right here, this article that came out. And what involves all of this, you see these immediate aggressors and these people. And so these people you see they can target them. They might be very vocal and they might be overt and upfront with how they feel. But trust me and believe me, there are a lot of other people who think just the way they do, and that's the reason why these deaths and killings go unchecked. So you have a New Jersey prison guard suspended for mocking George Floyd's death at a racism protest. And so I believe there's video and maybe some still photo attached to it, but you can see him kneeling on top of another male and mocking the death of George Floyd. So a FedEx driver was fired for joining the group of white counter protesters who reenacted the police killing at the Black Lives Matter march. And so I'm clicking right onto this, and so I believe there's something else that is attached to it, and it shows a loading of a video. And so let's see if we can actually turn the sound up on it. I believe there is commercial attached to it before it starts. And so there's a lot of other commercial ads and things in a moment.
Governor Murphy is condemning the actions by a New Jersey corrections officer and another man caught on camera mocking George Floyd's death during a Black Lives Matter protest. This cell phone video was taken during a Black Lives Matter rally yesterday in Franklinville, Gloucester County. You see a man kneeling on another man, the group yelling at the demonstrators as they marched by. The New Jersey Department of Corrections released a statement on Twitter. It reads, in part, "We have been made aware that one of our officers participated in the filming of a hateful and disappointing video that mocked the killing of George Floyd. The individual has been suspended from their post and banned from New Jersey Department of Corrections facilities pending a thorough and expedited investigation."
So I don't know if you're able to still, hopefully you're able to still hear my dialogue. So New Jersey corrections officer was suspended. And so I'm trying to turn this down because it goes into the ceremonies of George Floyd. So I'm reading the article as they have it written that the officer was suspended on Tuesday after he and another white men were filmed mocking George Floyd's death at a Black Lives Matter protest in South Jersey, Franklin Township. So the New York Times reported the FedEx driver was fired. And so just think about their professions. This is what I've said in previous videos in the past. You could be living around, working around, somebody could be coming to your door, somebody you might, if you go somewhere to a place of business, public place, you could encounter any one of these type of individuals. And so as peaceful Black Lives Matter demonstrators pass, the white counter protesters with the backdrop All Lives Matter sign and a Trump campaign banner reenacted George Floyd's killing by police, with one kneeling down on the neck of another man who laid face down. So this is what happens when you don't comply with cops, yelled the man on top, who went on to blame Floyd for his own death. And so that's what happened, and you're seeing it according to the video. At least 2 participants were later identified. We have been made aware that one of our officers from Bayside State Prison participated in filming of a hateful and disappointing video that mocked the killing of George Floyd. The State Department of Corrections said in a statement, said per NBC Philadelphia, the department, which did not identify the officer, suspended him and banned him from corrections facility pending an investigation. So this is the video right here, and you can see what he's doing. You see the man laying here, and they're reenacting the death of George Floyd, and they have a Trump banner in the back with the American flag. So they basically are telling you You're just seeing these few people, but there are many other people who they may not be as bold and overt and outward to show how they feel about these protests and about how people are feeling, but there are a lot of other people who you're not seeing that are behind the scenes that feel exactly the way these men feel. And so that is the thing that you have to understand, that while everybody is looking out at all of these protests and they think or assume, and I said think, and I'm saying that strongly because not everybody is in agreement with change. Not everybody wants to seek justice. Not everybody wants to seek change. Not everybody wants to let go of the feelings on how they feel about different races of individuals. This stuff has been ingrained in the fabric of America, and these people exist. And so these are the ones that are your prison guards. They work in high places and maybe in the woodworks, places you wouldn't believe, and they have real deep roots as to how they feel this way, and they have not let go of that, and they don't want to let go, and they become enraged as well. They're outraged because the system that governs people who are oppressed, they are benefiting from this system, and they feel outraged because you as people who want change want that to be dismantled, and you're interrupting what has always been, what they've always known as a system of control over people who are oppressed, who they feel are inferior or maybe not even human. And so I'm going to play this video so you can see how these men react again. And so that's just a snippet. It's on Instagram, it's probably all over social media, and so you can see how some people's position is on all of this. Notice that some of those marches, be careful when you see video of it. Sometimes they can alter it, doctor it up in Photoshop and add signs that aren't really there, add people's faces that aren't really holding up signs. They can change things and alter things. They can make people look like more people are there, or make it look like it's more colorful. A lot of different things can be done since we're in the age of technology. And so right here it says under an Instagram post that South Jersey, don't be naive, some posted. Okay, so this is what James J. DeMarco did while my brother was peacefully protesting in Franklin, New Jersey. James works for FedEx, and so now I want to know, does this employee's behavior align with your company policy? And so somebody saw him and recognized him. So as for the FedEx driver, in the counter protest, the company issued a statement Tuesday evening saying it does not tolerate the kind of appalling and offensive behavior depicted in the video. So the individual that was involved is no longer employed with FedEx, but we stand with those who support justice and equality. So the shocking skit played out on Monday, the day before Floyd's funeral in Houston, Texas, and Floyd's killing by police in Minneapolis, which triggered a national outcry against racial injustice and police brutality. So the display yesterday showed me that racism is real, racism is alive, and it's right next door to you. Exactly. That's my words. So Black Lives Matter protest organizer Darren Fennell told NBC New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy said in a statement, "We won't let the actions of a few distract from our progress toward dismantling systemic racism." And so I will say those are good words, and I would hope that that could be accomplished. But there's so much dismantling, and there's more than a few bad actors that are key players. You're just seeing the ones that are bold and overt, and they're out there in your face. You're not seeing the ones who are your CEOs. You're not seeing the ones who own big companies that are tied up in mass incarceration and that fund those programs. You're not seeing people who are behind the scenes and have a lot to do with why things are happening the way they are. So having said that, I'm going to let this video go. And so there's a lot of dismantling done, not only from what you see outside in your face, but from within as well. And so that is the issue here. And so this has gone on for so many decades. And so it's the same thing you see where officers, they get charged and sometimes not. And when they have a trial, somehow they become innocent, or they don't have enough evidence, or they end up not getting charged and not being arrested, or the trial drags on for a long period of time until they wear people down and they finally come up with a verdict that isn't uh, justice at all. It was all a show. And so time will tell how all of this will play out in the end. Having said that, I'm going to let this video go. Like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for listening. And stay informed on issues and stay aware. Keep your eyes and ears open. I have to say that and stress that again, because a lot of times people will get on social media and they'll say that they're for a cause and they really aren't. Though people that will show up to these funerals and they just want you to see them there, but they're not really standing behind these protests. There are some people that show up to the protest and they don't really know what the fate of this is going to be, and they do the best they can. But make make no mistake that you are going through two pandemics. You're having the COVID-19 because you're exposing yourself to more individuals who you don't know may be sick, may not be sick. And on top of that, you don't know what people are out at these protests that are like this man here that put a knee on the neck of this guy, and they're reenacting the death as if it is nothing to them. And I've said this in a previous video, there are people that are like him out there, many of them, not just a few, that don't feel that this death was wrong. They feel that the officers should be let go, and they were well within their right to do what they did. And that is why racism has been prevalent. That's why these systems in institutions have been prevalent, and they have been up and running, and they're hard to dismantle because you have a lot of key players in there, and money is involved in it as well. And so I would say that they have a lot of shows that are running on Netflix that have to do with some of these issues. I know I was going to look at one called The 13th, and I believe that might have to do with the 13th Amendment. And so it talks about the prison system. It talks about some of these issues as well. And also, there's some good books that also go further into how all of this plays out. So that is a strong indicator as to how these trials end up in the end not really being full justice. And I want to make mention, I know this is not the same video that I had done for Breonna Taylor. Her killers were not arrested. And so they're still doing what they call an investigation, the FBI. They put out an outcry for George Floyd, but you don't see the same energy for Breonna Taylor. And so when you see that imbalance, if you don't seek justice for everyone, they look at that. They say you don't even seek justice for your own females. So how could you expect us to take serious justice for males when you don't even care about your own women? So I want you to think about that, because that plays a part in it too, whether people want to believe that or not. Because if you want to seek justice, then you want to seek it straight across the board for everyone, not just for men, but for the women and for the children that have died at the hands of corrupt law enforcement or botched police searches. And so you have to look at the whole picture, not just half of it. Anyway, I'm going to let this video go, so like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for listening.